Hello and welcome to this edition of Political Smackdown. We have our regular group with us today. On my extreme right is Mike Philbeck, the former mayor of Shelby. That's Andy Dedman. Let's go to Mike Philbeck.
I'm a whole lot better looking than that guy is.
And there's Andy Dedman to my right, the former majority whip in the North Carolina House. To my extreme left and only left is Wes Westmoreland, former state senator, and I'm Betsy Wells, your host this week.
I'm just glad you didn't get me mixed up with
those two, with Andy?
Either.
Well, we're taping today on Thursday, July the 2nd, 2 days before the 250th anniversary of our nation that celebrates the founding. There are many things planned for this big weekend, and I hope that if you and your family will be, and if you see this much later this week, or that you were able to celebrate this memorable anniversary. Before we start our political discussion today, I want to pay tribute to a Kings Mountain educator who died earlier this month at the ripe age of 108. Bess Alice Hambright Pfeiffer. I knew her simply as Bess. Her obituary was in the Kings Mountain Herald and covered 3 complete columns. She proudly served in the Red Cross during World War II, where she met a young soldier from Kings Mountain named Merritt Pfeiffer, whom later she married, coming to Kings Mountain to live, where she raised a family and taught school until she was 72 years old. She was an elementary school teacher and an elementary math consultant during these 27 years. I knew her simply as Bess. And she grew up in Antioch, South Carolina, just down the road from where I live. And she also is a descendant of Colonel Hambright, who fought at the Battle of Kings Mountain. Now, Mike, I know you knew Miss Bess. What do you have to say about her?
Well, when Patty and I joined our church in Kings Mountain in the early 1980s, Miss Bess was one of the stalwarts and backbones of that church among the women of the church. Very faithful in her Christian commitment for all of these years. Taught kids in Sunday school and did lots of other things in the church. Obviously, she was a patriot during World War II. She joined the Red Cross. She went to Hawaii, to Guam, and served the soldiers that had been injured. And that's actually how she met her husband of many years, Merritt Pfeiffer. There's nothing bad to say about her. I went to her 100th birthday party and another one after that was held at our church. And she was still at age 100, very much self-sufficient, had her mind, and really only the last couple of weeks of her life did she go down pretty quickly. She'd had some decline, but she would have been 109, I believe, had she lived till in October of this year. I've often wondered if she might be the oldest living person in Cleveland County. I
wondered about that too, Mike.
But I will say the only connection to local politics Miss Bess has that I was aware of was through her daughter, Connie Pfeiffer Savelle, who's also a member of our church and who was very instrumental in taking care of her. Connie won one of the early 2-year terms on the merged school board in the early 2000s and served 1 term. And it's a good family, and she'll be missed, but Lord knows she had a very blessed and meaningful life.
And I know Wes and Andy, you probably didn't know Miss Bess, but in Kings Mountain she was well known. And one of the things in her, and I hope when you get a moment, read her obituary. I learned a lot about Miss Bess, even though I taught in the same school with her for a school system so many years. She earned the rank of lieutenant within the American National Red Cross. She was on board the USS Missouri on September the 2nd, 1945, when Japan surrendered. She also shook hands with President Franklin Roosevelt and saw General Douglas MacArthur on that occasion. And I think Merritt was in the Air Force, not the Army, her husband. And she marched, I think, in one of the presidential parades there in Washington. And then she worked very hard in the school system and taught many, many children in Kings Mountain, but died at 108. So we were blessed in Kings Mountain to have her, and our condolences to Connie Savell and her family. Moving on, we're beginning with state news. And guess what happened this week? All right, Mike, Andy, take it away. What happened?
Well, we actually have a state budget.
Yay!
Actually do. Pretty interesting. I had to bring my Kindle because this thing was sort of late breaking. I hadn't had a chance to read the
Can
whole
you fit the
thing.
whole budget in that little box?
Yes, I can. Trust me. It's technology, Wes.
Okay.
Maybe you should try sometime.
One of these days.
The one thing I thought was kind of interesting in reading this morning was there really wasn't a lot of debate about it. It was about 2 hours in the House. And usually when you had a budget on the floor, usually you just hitch up your drawers and get ready because you're going to be there a while. I mean, I've been there as long as 10, 12 hours at a time. But that's the nature of it.
Thank you, Jim Black.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah, thank you, Jim. What a friend. But when you get down to it, the other thing that bothers me a little bit, this actually didn't go through the appropriations committees like you would think. It was done in that secret little room over in the legislative office building where you find them when you see all the pizza boxes stacked up. And those are the people that made that decision. And it could not be amended. So basically, all you could do is just go out there and just kind of, fuss or cuss or whatever, but you still ended up with some Democrats that didn't think it was a total loss. And it's just like with any other budget, Betsy. There's good and bad in both. I think when it's all said and done, I think Governor Stein will sign it. I think there's enough in there that overcomes a lot of other, and this is another thing that's always been a problem with me and a lot of other members. Too many times in the budget bill has got way too many things that have absolutely nothing to do with the budget. There has been criminal law in it. It just picks something. And that was the main thing that bothers me, is you don't ever really know until you get down into the weeds with it, so to speak. So, was it worth the wait? Well, we'll see. But the main thing is that we had some good increases for teachers, state employees. Law enforcement made out. It's unbelievable. But when it comes to like prison guards, you can't keep them. So you've got to make it worth their while to do it. They're not going to come and look after these people for minimum wage. So I think that is fair. They're putting their safety on the line. It is best to have some well-paid, well-trained people that will stay with you. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. But there is a lot in this thing.
587 pages. Wes, what did you find in the budget?
Well, there's a lot in the budget, as there always is. That many pages, there's, like I say, it'll be weeks before we know everything that's in it, but significant raises, including for teachers, Betsy. You'll be glad to know that. Money for Medicaid fraud, or to help find and prevent Medicaid fraud and waste, school safety. A lot of things are covered, but Andy, what really, this I guess has happened every year. The budget I voted on was $20 billion. This is $34 billion. That's an awful lot of money, and I think it certainly speaks to the size and growth of state government Good news is we've continued to have a surplus, and this will continue to bring down taxes for people. And I think that's important. When the government has a surplus, that means they've expropriated too much of your money. And this is going to reduce how much the government takes out of your pocket and your paycheck every week.
It's funny you said that, Wes. My first budget in 1997 was $13.2 billion. And I thought that was all the money in the world.
Yeah.
And look at where we're at now, 20-something years later.
Think about how many people, though, our state has gained.
We have.
Mike, what do you say about the budget? What did you find?
Well, they set aside $450 million more dollars for the rainy day fund, and they now have, even after Helene, $4.2 billion in the rainy day fund. And that allowed them for Berger to get one of the things he wanted. It removes the upcoming revenue triggers and locks in a schedule of set personal income tax rate reductions that will go down to 3.49% January 1. By 2033, it will go down to 2.99% and could reach 2.49 where there is a revenue trigger still. So if you're paying the 4% basically this year, that's going to go down at least 1 full percent in the next few years. And remember, when Republicans took the majority, it was 7 3/4 at the top rate, and it was not a flat rate like it is now. And the gentleman from Earl was a part of a budget, I think, that had a 1/2 cent temporary surcharge above the 7 3/4. Were you there for that? I think you were, weren't you?
I think we were.
Maybe you just put sales tax on liquor is what I'm remembering.
Well, you would never forget that, Michael. Never.
But I think the big news is the 8% average for teachers, it's weighted more toward first 5-year teachers. It goes from 40 to 48 or 42 to 48 for starting teachers. And I heard Aaron Perez say on the House floor yesterday that the average teacher with something like 16 years will be, including local supplement average, at like $74,000 a year. So, Betsy, it's a good deal more than when you taught.
Oh, yes.
But let me tell you what I thought was interesting. In the Senate, 9 Democrats voted for the budget out of their 20, almost half, but 2 Republicans voted against it. I guess it had too much spending for at least 2 of our people.
No, what it was, Mike, these 2 were from around Pamlico County down that way, and they had increases in the ferries.
So they voted
and
against
that's why they
That's
voted
right.
against it.
And then in the House, 22 Democrats, they've got 47, because you got 2 unaffiliateds now. But 22 of the 47 voted for it, almost half. And then the 2 unaffiliated that are longtime Democrats that are mad at the governor, they voted for the budget. And the first Democrat to speak for the budget was Carla Cunningham. And the last one, and he voted for it, was the minority leader, Robert Reeves. Therefore, Andy, I think you're probably right. Stein knows he can't sustain a veto to get some of it out, so he's probably going to sign it and not let it lay there 10 days.
I think he will.
Well, and one of the things that I want to mention about the teacher raises, years ago when the Democrats were in control of the General Assembly, the teachers had a salary schedule where you went through every year experience, you had a little bit more money, whether the state gave you any more or not. But the Republicans stopped that. And so when you have an average, now it looks great when you give $7,000 to beginning teachers, but let's face it, we have a teacher shortage. So hopefully they will stay with us and not go to other states where they'll make more money. But your average, I had a friend that's a 26-year teacher tell me that when she looked at it, she'll make $200 more a month. And so, she's going to stay through till she retires. And so don't think that every teacher's getting like $7,000. It's a graduate, and it gets less and less as the more experience you have, because they feel like that you will stay there. And you all left out a biggie for me. For the first time in many years, the retirees in the state are getting a bonus or a supplement, a one-time bonus of 2.5% of our salary, which will happen next fall.
No, I just didn't care to remember it because
You
I'm
didn't-
getting that because it ended up being like about less than $10 for me.
Well, you know, it's,
for the year.
for the year. Well,
You deserve every one of those
and,
dollars too.
and it's been
Thank you,
several
sir.
years since we had anything. And North Carolina, I'm sorry to say, has some of the lowest retirement salaries of the whole South. Even some of our states that are lesser have more poverty than us. And I see a mic over there giving me that where, you know, it's the...
He's playing the violin.
But anyway, also, one of the things that I noticed is that I don't know where the Republicans got this, but they decided that legal aid of North Carolina was doing too much for that left-hand side of the Democratic Party, and they slashed $6 million out of it. Now, this is to help low-income people that are facing eviction, domestic violence, and like scam. It's for help seniors that have been scammed, also to confront human trafficking. It did a lot of good, but now a lot of times these are the type people that vote Democratic, so I think that says it all, doesn't it? But 587 pages in this budget, and like you said, Wes, I think we'll be having more. Well, at this time, we're going for a break, and we'll come back and join us for the next part of Political Smackdown. Welcome back to this edition of Political Smackdown, and thank you for taking the time to spend it with us, and we hope that you learned something today. We're talking about the budget before the break, and I'm sure there'll be other things that come out that we talk about later. But before we leave state news, something else has happened in Rockingham County, where the county commissioners have decided to cut the current sheriff's salary and benefits, which is in violation of state law. What do all of you think? Give us the background, Mike. What's going on in Rockingham County?
Well, the chairman of the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners is the son of Pro Tem of the Senate, Phil Berger. And that board, when it became evident that Sheriff Sam Page was going to challenge him, they did not challenge Berger for the Senate. They did not give the sheriff his cost of living raises. And they were given to every other person they controlled, but not to them. North Carolina General Statute 153A92 says that a sheriff or other elected official's salary cannot be reduced during the current term of their office without the consent of that sheriff or register of deeds. And so the issue is that they essentially cut his pay by not giving him the COLA they gave everybody else in Rockingham County. And so they also did it to the register of deeds, so they must not like her either. I don't know. Maybe she or he. I don't even know who it is. But anyway, he sued them on the 26th of June, so it's recent. But on the 22nd of June, when they adopted the budget, they gave him the money back and restored his salary with the COLAs. But there's still some issues with it, so he has sued them, and he's asking for punitive damages for them violating the law. I don't know how it'll come out, but Senator nominee at this point, Page, is going to Raleigh to the Senate, where most of the Republicans are not going to be happy to see him anyway. So he might want to be careful now that he's got his money back and see if he can't work it out.
All right, Wes, what do you think?
Well, I think you don't thump the nose of the high sheriff, who's obviously very popular in your home county. That's the first mistake here. Mike, I agree. Page is not building any bridges to have a successful term in Raleigh. We'll see where it goes from here.
Well, Andy, what do we all want to move to Rockingham County?
Well, I don't believe I do. But anyway, when it gets down to it, what goes around comes around. And they think that they're going to smack the sheriff, and he's won fair and square, and they just might as well accept that and go on. Now, going after his money like that and all that is just, that's just awful to even consider. But once he got his money back completely in the budget, he should have let it go. But just for no other reason than, just like you said, Wes, he's going to have to build some bridges, and let's face it, there's no more clannish place than the General Assembly. And they took out one of the main Republican money man, and they're not going to be happy with him at all.
And the Senate may be worse than the House in that regard.
I think so too, and I think you'll probably see him down somewhere. His office will be down in the parking area downstairs.
That's right.
So-
Andy, I think most of
In
the
a
rich
shed.
Republicans are in the Senate.
Yes, they are.
Well, and remember that he only won his primary by 23 votes.
Not
Yep.
percent votes.
And not percent, right.
Hey,
and
it just
after
takes
they
one.
recounted and recounted. Well, it'll be interesting to see, what happens when he moves on. But and now on to news from Washington. The Supreme Court, believe it or not, delivered President Trump a major defeat this week in their decision to abide by the United States Constitution, where it clearly states that all people born in the United States have birthright citizenship. What do you think of this decision? Wes, start.
Well, let's start by recognizing there are exceptions to the 14th Amendment, specifically diplomats, Indians, or rather Native Americans, aliens during hostile invasions, and apparently Congress determines this. Kavanaugh, in his partial dissent, suggests that Congress can fix this by essentially passing a law that the part that was a problem was the executive order. But in America, we do have citizens. In Rome, you have citizens and non-citizens. In England, you have subjects to the crown. We don't have two classes of Americans. Doesn't matter where your parents are born. The 14th Amendment voids the creation of hereditary caste among people whose children will not ever become citizens and those who are. All that said, the Reconstruction Congress, there's no way they could have foreseen easy and cheap airplane trips to come to the States, have a baby, and then fly home. From what I've read, upwards of $250,000 a year. The same Reconstruction Congress had no concept of the massive influx of illegal immigrants that have flooded the nation over the past decades. But to answer your question, Betsy, the words of the Constitution are clear to me, so I think the court probably made the correct decision in this case. And my Republican friends that are upset with this ruling, the ruling was about the symptoms, not the cause. We need to fix the cause. Either amend the Constitution and end birthright citizenship, if that's what you believe, or do away with the lucrative incentives and social programs that are driving this unnatural hyperinflation. That would solve the problem. But as far as the case is concerned, I think the court probably did the right thing.
And Andy, do you think Wes lives in an alternative universe?
I think-
Do you think Wes looks at stuff that you and I
What
don't
about
see?
that can you argue with?
Well, the fact that there are all these, now I've been in the airports and I haven't seen all these women coming through pregnant as they can be and to have babies, and then you say they get on the plane and go
I'm
home.
just telling you what.
But anyway, Wes,
published is accurate,
Wes. Okay, that's your opinion. Andy, straighten him out.
Well, here's the thing. It was very clear what the Constitution says about this in the 14th Amendment. I think that the justice did the only thing they could do, and that was the rule that it has to be left in force. Now, should we go back and maybe look, should you automatically be a citizen if your parents are here illegally? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that where I think that's what you were getting at, Wes. And those kind of things maybe we need to look at further. But right now, on the cusp of it, I don't see how anything else. That is the way the Constitution is, the 14th Amendment, and it has to stay. It's just going to have to stay that way for now.
All right, Mike?
Well, I have an alternative point of view. I think there are a couple of problems that were never have been caused that were not the focus of the 14th Amendment. The primary focus, really the only focus at that time, was that the former black slaves formally got full citizenship where they had not had full citizenship prior to the 14th Amendment. So if you're a textualist, and that was the intent, and that was stated at the time, then some of these things, Betsy, like that Alito in his dissent, who's always a very thoughtful person, he said a great many persons who are born here to illegal immigrant parents fail the test of what the 14th Amendment said because they are not only subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, but to the country and become dual citizens with where they are. And he thinks that should have been a part of the ruling. It would have been nuanced, but it would have made some birthright citizenship go away. And the other one was commonly become more and more common. There are numerous cases of it where women will travel here in their 7th or 8th month of pregnancy in order to take advantage of birthright citizenship, then take their kids back to their original country, and they are American citizens for life. That ought not to be. Now, Kavanaugh did say that he thinks there's a way around that statutorily, but you know how hard it is to pass something through the Congress.
Yes, they went home early.
So I think it fails on some respects. I get where they're coming from. But anytime I've got Alito and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Thomas on one side, and all those women and Roberts on the other, which is what we had in this one, then I know probably it's not a really good decision.
And we can talk longer about this, but guys, we're running out of time. What's tickling your fancy? Mike, what have you got for us for the lightning round?
Well, in the latest 12 months, according to the United States Census Bureau, which ended June 30th of last year, there are 15 states there with the greatest number of people moving into their state from other states and the ones that have lost the most. North Carolina was number 1. And if you'll look at that, you'll notice that 13 of the 15 with net gains won. The Republican candidate won in 2024, and they control the legislature and most of those governorships. North Carolina's an exception. And on the other side, all the states that lost, 11 out of 15 of them voted for Kamala Harris and have much higher taxes than all of these southern and midwestern states that are getting the gain. Just an interesting stat.
All right, Andy, what about you?
Well, I found something else interesting in the budget.
Oh, in the budget.
In the
I
budget.
thought we was going to talk about something else, guys.
No, I'll let you do that one. But now, when this budget bill is enacted, you will be able to deduct your gambling losses on your state income taxes.
Well, for those
Is
of
that
us...
not a wonderful thing?
All right, Wes, you going to talk about gambling?
No, I'm not. In his fourth message to Congress, Teddy Roosevelt said in part, "No fraud in connection with naturalization is to be permitted." While the court was probably right on Trump versus Barber, the issue must be addressed. Congress can do so by cutting or ending the most of the unnatural immigration caused by the overt and unsustainable social programs that are drawing people here across the border.
Okay, thank you. And mine concerns Trump. He had to produce his financial report this week, 900 and some pages. The stack's this high. When President Obama did his last one, he had 8 pages. Trump made $2.45 billion with him and his family, in addition to money this past year due to his assets and Bitcoin. And it's not right for a president to do that because it's illegal. He could give it to the American people and help solve poverty. Thank y'all. Come back.